pushing kind of an erosion of women's
There
rights.
ain't no way. This man is talking to Ollie London. There ain't no way.
Actually having a tough time now because of these trans activists. So my issue is with trans activists and not actual trans people.
Are you
so you
joking?
say, here's a tweet of yours from just the end of last month, not that long ago, right? Or no? Yeah, it's like from 5 days ago. You say the goal of the trans movement is not simply to exist. The goal is to erase women, mutilate children, sexualize kids, take away free speech, class pedophilia
Oh
as
my
an
God.
identity, remove parental rights, indoctrinate kids, violence to obtain, and they're willing to do violence to obtain their goals. So when you say the trans movement, it seems to me that you are speaking generally about trans people having this goal. And when you say trans movement, I don't know exactly what you mean, because it seems that most trans people, or that I've seen, maybe with the exception of Caitlyn Jenner, it seems to disagree with this, seems to identify as being parts of the trans movement. So what is the difference between, what is the trans movement? Who is a member of that? What is this organization?
Okay, so what I'm talking about here is the trans movement in the trans activist movement. So the people pushing these ideologies. So we see every single day. Just yesterday, the Texas state capitol was invaded. The trans protesters went there. We see women being attacked at women's rights rallies, physically attacked, and we're seeing this trans activist movement pushing for gender affirming care on kids, which is basically putting 11, 12-year-old kids on very harmful hormones. So that's what I'm talking about. When I talk, I'm not generalizing every single trans person. I'm talking about the current trans movement, which has been hijacked by trans activists. And, I really think that trans people that have been living as a trans person their whole life, they need to speak out against this, because the problem is that the LGBT community is being hijacked by these radical
let
people.
me ask, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but I just want to address things you said already, right? So you say that the people who were demonstrating at the Texas,
Bro, Ethan is so good at this shit.
part of this trans movement, who wants to
He don't need my help at all.
sexualize kids and this whole list of things. They were there to protest a bill, SB 14, that would ban gender-related treatment for minors. So these guys are, I guess, see that as an affront, as being transphobic. But you disagree, because what is minor? Anyone 17 and under? Do you believe that ever there would be a 17-year-old that needed gender-affirming care?
So minor is basically classified anyone under 18. And what these people were protesting against was the fact that Texas is trying to pass a law to ban hormones and puberty blockers and gender reassignment surgery being administered to children, basically. So, I think these people, firstly, that was an unlawful protest. You can't just go into a state capitol and do that. And if they want to have a...
Are you in favor of only lawful protests?
For the record, this is Ethan's greatest enemy yet, because every anti-trans activist is like, has encyclopedic knowledge of every fucking minor infraction that trans people have ever committed. So this is the highest level of debate that he's ever engaged with. I'm gonna be honest, it's like debating a flat earther. It's very difficult to debate flat earthers, no matter how much you know the science, because they can constantly trap you in their junk science, and they know more than you in the junk science. So transphobia is kind of like that too.
Probably no, or I think you did at one point, is that gender affirming care on children is exceedingly rare. It's actually so rare that it's if to express like irreversible gender changes on children is something like I've got the number here, 0.000493% of U.S. children aged 6 through 17 go through irreversible gender changes. So I guess I'm just curious, because in the cases where they do undergo it, it's usually to save their life, right? Because they might be suicidal or yeah, right? And they go through like panels, they go through multiple rounds of talking to psychiatrists and doctors. So I guess I'm just curious, why is it you think that this is threatening kids instead of actually helping kids who are at high risk of hurting themselves?
So, Ethan, about 10 years ago, when gender affirming care was performed on whether that was minors or adults, there was a lot of checks and balances. Now it has become so easy. So they don't have the psychiatrist appointments anymore. They don't have, having to
Wrong.
wait several years to transition. Now it's
Wrong.
a fast track process. And that's the real issue because many of these teens, and we're seeing thousands of teens being transitioned and put on hormones, the number's really gone up in the last few years. Many of these
Wrong.
teens are struggling with other issues. There's a high case, around 1 in 6 of these children have autism. They're being misdiagnosed. There's also kids with
The way you look and the way you sound plays a serious role in how you're perceived in debates. And Ollie London looks like shit. So like it's very hard for people to take him seriously. You know what I mean? It's just like he just looks so fucking insane because he's unhinged. He's an unhinged psychopath.
The system is being exploited.
Like he was like he was trying to be like transracial or some shit. You remember? Like
there's so many examples.
It's just not going to work.
People. But the thing is now is previously, as difficult as it was, because it's so hard when you're trans to struggle and to think every day that I'm trapped in the wrong body. It is horrific to go through that. But the problem is, years ago they would have 2 to 3 years. They would have to undergo of psychiatrist appointments, doctors.
Ethan should go, wait, you transitioned years ago. What does that say then?
So easy. And there are thousands of kids being fast-tracked and put on hormones, prescriptions. And some kids can now go to states like Colorado or Washington State, which have become sanctuary states. And they don't
I want to
stop.
I want to actually address what you said about you had said something about Jamie Reed's allegations, right? But that was debunked, right? Because the parents and the children there who actually were attending that facility actually told a completely different story. Have you read their account of that?
Yes, so I saw recently that they did an internal investigation. They said it wasn't true, but I don't believe that.
Well, that seems significant.
Yes, but I don't believe that at all because
you don't
they're trying to cover their back.
You don't believe the internal investigation?
No, because there were multiple parents. When the Daily Caller originally did the interview with Jamie Reed, there were multiple parents that said basically their kids weren't looked after. Once they left the clinic, there were no checks and balances, and there were parents confirming that. So, I believe the investigation has a lot of bias because it's done by the clinic and they're profiting.
So the internal investigation said there was no wrongdoings. The patients said there was no wrongdoings. So I guess I'm just curious. The people who are claiming that there was something wrong there is like the Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson. Are you saying that they don't have a bias?
Well, I mean, a lot of people have a bias and stuff, but we have to look at these gender clinics as a whole. Project Veritas exposed multiple clinics the other day of talking about medically transitioning 8 to 11-year-olds. So we have to acknowledge that this is going on in a lot of clinics, and a lot of these clinics are trying to cover their backs by trying to paint a rosy picture that it's perfect.
Did you say
fine.
Project Veritas?
Yes, they did an undercover investigation.
That's the guy who got ousted for being like a sex criminal and like scam artist, James O'Keefe. That's his organization, right?
He's not part of that organization now. So the organization that he left, Project Veritas, the original organization, did this investigation.
They don't have a lot of credibility, Veritas. It seems like every investigation they do is just chock full holes of untruths and just blatant lies. I don't think it's a very credible institution for pulling data from.
Well, there's multiple organizations like Project Veritas that do expose
Which other ones?
So Gays Against Groomers, I'm ambassador for them. They are also exposing this happening in clinics.
Gays Against Groomers. So
have you heard of them?
I haven't, but who's the groomer then?
So basically, Gays Against Groomers is an organization of hundreds of LGBT people. It includes trans people as well. Basically, this organization is calling out the harms. They're doing investigations of gender.
That's also a lie. Gays Against Groomers is like literally started by a straight man.
Where's the grooming come in, though? That's the part that I find like really inflammatory. Because grooming implies that trans people or trans activists, and it's what you said here in this tweet, that they're pedophiles, that they're sexualizing kids. So where's that evidence come from? Because it's one thing to say we're against, gender affirming care for minors, but it's a whole different thing to say they're grooming?
Well, that word is basically used because we're seeing many drag shows, like adult drag shows, where kids are attending, and it's very sexually explicit. So that is a form of grooming. We also see these kids' books in public libraries and in schools where they're teaching kids about drag and being trans. That's not a subject a kid should hear. So that is a form of grooming because it's
Okay. So
indoctrinating kids.
I've heard, I
Mhm.
know that there was that one drag show with kids that was kind of a hot button issue. Um,
Mm.
what other examples can you think of drag shows with kids involved where they're being
So
groomed?
there's in the last year, there's an investigative journalist, Taylor Hasan. He's exposed at least 20 drag shows in Texas that
Oh,
are
really?
called all
20?
ages drag shows. They're called all ages drag shows, and they're basically doing sex acts on stage. They have breasts. They're doing very inappropriate things. So it's just
So
a
hold on,
kid
sorry,
shouldn't be
Ollie.
there.
You're making so many claims, and I just want to get to each one. You mentioned
Mhm.
an organization, Gays Against Groomers, which
Yeah.
was founded by Jamie Mitchell. Is that right?
Hmm.
So Jamie Mitchell and their partner are ultra MAGA Trump followers, and there's nothing wrong with being a Trump supporter, but they're also anti-transgender. They spread anti-transgender propaganda with QAnon conspiracy theories, and interestingly, the founders are straight. So how is it that they can make a gays against a groomers organization when they themselves are not even gay? That seems disingenuous.
Well, firstly, that's a Wikipedia page. Wikipedia has a lot of bias with the woke people that
So
write on
Jamie
there.
Mitchell is
Actually,
gay.
she's gay. She's a lesbian. All of the people, you have to be LGBT to be a member
How do they check that?
of Gays Against Groomers. So there's
How do
hundreds
they
of trans
verify the
people.
credentials?
No, I mean, if someone says they're gay or bi, you accept that. You don't say, "Oh, can you prove that you're gay? How can you prove that?" So, Jamie Mitchell is a lesbian. All of the members are lesbians, trans. It's not anti-transgender at all. They support people being trans as an adult, but what they're trying to do is calling out the harm that we're seeing caused to children, and that's the real issue here. Is about protecting kids.
Yeah, tell that to
So
the Turkish
go back
military.
to your claim about grooming. So you brought up the drag show for kids.
Mhm.
Is there any other examples, or are we just talking about drag shows? Because I have to assume that the drag shows, even if it's as widespread as Project Veritas claims, which heaven knows how credible they are, there's got to be other examples to make such bold claims as that there's a whole movement trying to sexualize kids.
Yeah, even if you look at the music industry, you have really shocking performances like Sam Smith, for instance, who is pushing a specific agenda. He has concerts which are allowing all ages. And, if you want to be a musician, do whatever you want, but don't be doing sexually graphic things. He's doing imitating blowjobs. He has, fetish gear on, and there's kids in the audience. So it's not just about drag queens. It's about protecting kids in general. So even if it's Cardi B, I don't think kids should be at a Cardi B concert if she's twerking or doing like something very, very sexual. I
You
think
say
it's just about protecting
grooming.
kids.
But you turn on the TV. You see stuff worse than that, right? On YouTube and
Mhm.
stuff. To say they're
Yeah.
grooming them seems pretty disingenuous and actually really homophobic and transphobic to put this label that they're groomers, because you understand the gravity of such a claim, right?
Well, it's a very loaded word. I get that, but it's not an attack on the LGBT community at all. It's about basically calling out specific cases. It's not an attack on trans people, calling out specific cases where children are being exposed to something that's highly inappropriate and trying to raise awareness of that. So it's not a label that's attached to gay people, lesbians, trans people. It's literally about calling out.
I think more people should utilize the Mrs. Doubtfire argument, like as I like to call it. Do you think Mrs. Doubtfire was grooming an entire generation of like children to be trans?
Gross. They were selling. It was like a kid's T-shirt with a trans person on it, and then they had like kids' toys with trans people on it, and it was kind of gross and groomy. Have you seen anything like that before?
I've seen T-shirts that the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota wore, "Protect Trans Kids" with a knife on it. Things like that. I've seen T-shirts that says "Protect Trans Rights" with AK-47s on it and stuff. And I don't think that's helpful messaging for And that's just trans activists, by the way, Ethan. This is a small number of people, and that's who I'm calling out. That's who Gays Against Groomers are calling out. It's not the trans.
The Mrs. Doubtfire argument is not to like own your interlocutor. It's to make your interlocutor look like a fucking psychotic woke scold from the right, of course, to onlookers.
You are actually selling kids lunchboxes with a picture of you depicted as a trans woman, and you're selling it.
No, that's not as a trans woman.
Oh,
that's
it's not
as a trans woman. That's just a K-pop picture of me.
Okay, because this is you. I had a feeling you would say that, because here it is, you wearing that design, and it's pretty obvious to tell that this is depicting you. This is from just like a month ago, and this is when you were trans.
Wearing my merch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think it's appropriate to sell this to kids?
Well, it's a lunchbox with a picture of a K-pop cartoon.
Well, it's you as a trans. It's you as a trans woman.
It's me as a K-pop star. It's nothing to do with being trans or not. That's just a cartoon of me as a K-pop star. So it's not. But that's not inappropriate.
Right, but at the time you were a trans woman.
Correct. At the time I was a trans woman, but there's nothing inappropriate.
So it's you as a trans woman.
Oh, he's about to be like, yeah, I was a groomer.
It does not depict me as a trans woman. It depicts me.
He's about to be like, yeah, I was a groomer back then. I'm not anymore.
You're willing to make that separation when you're making such general claims about groomers and stuff, because to me, by your own definition, this is pretty groomy. And even if you go, and this is all, well, hold on, Ollie, hold on one sec. Even if you go on your website right now, you're selling the same graphic, Ollie London, Ollie Merch Squad, as you depicted as a trans woman. And if you look at the available sizes, it's just kids, 3 to 4. Do you think it's appropriate for a 3 to 4-year-old to buy this shirt?
Yeah, of course. Any K-pop fan, if they want to buy my merch, they're absolutely entitled to. There's nothing inappropriate with that merch at all. It's
that is a trans woman, Ollie. You're not understanding your own logic.
You're clutching at straws.
How am I? You were okay. Hold on. Let's follow this through. You were a trans woman when you made this. There's a picture of you wearing it. It's obviously you as a trans woman. Here's you as a trans woman, and here's you as a trans woman on the shirt, on a kid's shirt. How am I clutching at straws?
Well, you're clutching at straws. It's an innocent cartoon. It doesn't say anything about indoctrinating
children. The tongue is somewhat sexual.
How
the tongue is out like that. It's a little disturbing.
Ethan, come on. I'm doing a K-pop pose. You're just clutching at straws.
No, why is the tongue out? I find that a little provocative.
Ethan, it's a cartoon. You're just trying to make a joke.
Well, I don't know, because you're no, I'm not trying to make a joke. I think this is a somewhat serious issue to resolve here, because I'm being serious, Ollie, because let's at least be consistent. If we're going to accuse people of grooming kids, and which you have made a short-lived but somewhat profitable career of doing, then I think we need to, we need to get on top of this. I just don't think it's appropriate to be selling lunch boxes with a trans woman on it.
If that lunchbox had something inappropriate or sexual, that would be wrong. But this is an innocent cartoon of me doing a K-pop pose. There's nothing wrong with that particular picture. If it was inappropriate or in a sexual way, that would be completely wrong. And of course, I would never sell that. But that's an innocent drawing of a cartoon, Ethan.
Do you think it's appropriate for a drag queen, for kids to buy, let's say a kid's at a drag queen show. That's grooming. And let's say they are selling lunch boxes to the kids of with a picture of a drag queen on it, doing a cute pose or whatever, right? Not sexual, but they're in drag. Do you think it's appropriate for a kid to carry that lunchbox?
Well, I think it's appropriate if the kid's at a drag show that's inappropriate, because some drag shows are generally not inappropriate. But a lot of them are becoming sexualized.
That's interesting. So some drag shows are appropriate and some aren't.
Correct. It's about doing some. No, correct. It's about, if you're going to do anything in front of kids, it should be PC. It should not have anything sexual. But sadly, a lot of these shows are doing sexual things, so kids should not be there. If the merch is there and it's a show that's sexual, they shouldn't be there in the first place.
Okay, this is interesting. So you're saying it is okay for kids to go to drag shows?
I'm not saying that at all. I don't think they should in general, but I'm just saying
if they're not sexual, and I would assume it's not because it's for kids, right? I mean, if they're doing sexual stuff, I would consider that. Obviously, everyone would consider that inappropriate. Mm-hmm. But I believe you've just said drag shows are safe for kids. In fact, you would
No,
even be okay.
you're
Well, hold on. You even said you'd be okay with them carrying a drag show lunchbox.
No, look, I just don't think kids should be anywhere that is putting ideas into their head. If a show is innocent, that's obviously better than it being a sexual show, but I still don't
You're
think
not in
kids should be
favor.
exposed to gender ideology.
But what about this
if a kid,
lunchbox you're selling to kids?
that has nothing to do with any kind of ideology. It's a K-pop picture. So
Yeah, but you're in
it's,
drag in the picture. You're trans.
I'm not in drag.
Well, you're
I'm
trans.
not in
Sorry, yeah,
drag.
you're right. You're not in drag. I misspoke. You're trans. You're a woman. You're expressing yourself as a woman on the box.
It's just a cartoon, Ethan. I don't know why you keep going on about it's a cartoon.
It's just a cartoon. I mean, I feel like you're trying to downplay the significance of this, Ollie. I just afraid that some of the people that you associate with might consider this grooming by your own standard. I'm just looking out for you and your reputation.
It's just silly, Ethan. It's an innocent cartoon. If it was an inappropriate picture, that would be wrong.
Okay. What do you make of this picture? Are these kids in danger? Your thoughts?
Well, I haven't seen the video of that particular show, and it depends what book they're reading. If the drag queen is
It
teaching
appears
them
to
about
be
gender ideology,
depicting some fish, a couple of fish in the ocean. It seems like
That's the rainbow fish.
the rainbow fish. It seems to be the rainbow fish, Ollie.
well, I think a lot of these books are pushing even subtle messages on gender ideology, trying to tell kids you should be trans and become LGBT, and kids should make that decision on their own. So if that book is teaching them about, transitioning or becoming a drag queen, that's inappropriate.
It's
and that's
the rainbow
issue
fish.
Yes, but I haven't read the book. I can't see what the book is. So based on that one picture, does that book contain subtle messaging that's trying to tell kids to change their gender when they shouldn't be thinking about things like that? And, in Florida, they've obviously banned books in the classroom that teach gender ideology. And there's a lot of books, kids' books. There's a book called The Gay ABCs, and that pushes gender ideology. For 2-year-olds, it's 2+. And I don't think that's appropriate for a kid that just should be reading kids' books that are completely innocent. They shouldn't even be...
But what do you make of this? What do you make of this lunchbox, though?
Why do you keep going back to the lunchbox?
Because it's got a picture of a trans woman on a kid's lunchbox.
Got a picture of a K-pop star on the lunchbox.
Who's the K-pop star? Who is the K-pop?
Come on,
it's
Ethan,
you, right?
It's me.
It's you. And this K-pop star is a trans woman, right?
I was trans at the time. The image doesn't necessarily depict any kind of gender.
So you're saying, did the photo of you?
Not even it's not even a photo of me. It's literally a cartoon. I had an anime cartoon drawn of me.
Right. Right.
Would you buy it?
Sorry.
Would you buy it for your kids?
I mean, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't, just because I don't want to support you financially.
I've been listening, by the way. I'm just setting up the bed.
But theoretically, I don't think I'd have a problem with. No, I wouldn't have a problem with my children.
There you go, Ethan. So this is what I was gonna say. The one issue with like buyer logic style arguments is that you have to clarify, like you don't actually have an issue with Ollie London selling this. It's that he has an issue with it, but he himself is also a grifter.
Or even elementary school, when they shouldn't be thinking about that. I think it's wrong to expose them to that. I think
exposing them.
Also, airtight argument from Ollie. That's not me as a trans woman. I'm a K-pop star. Okay, dude. Like.
But I think it's a really important point that you're not.
Good one,
coming
good one, Ollie. I'm sure everyone is gonna think you're a K-pop star. That's a great one.
Why is it still on your website, at least,
It's come on, Ethan. I don't know what to say. It's a cartoon of a K-pop star.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's very innocent.
Yeah,
it's just
that's infallible. That's the best defense, man. You got it.
Trans kids on there. That would have a message. That would have a loaded gender ideology message. But it literally says Ollie Squad with a cartoon of me doing the peace sign. It's like super cute, super innocent. Just like most K-pop stars are like super cute, There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, aren't you making like the Higo face a little bit?
What, do you think I should make it more masculine?
No, the Higo face is like some kind of hentai thing, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Bro said Higo face. Ahego, you fucking lack of pervert. You don't know what? It's not Higo, it's Ahego.
Hold on.
He's not perverted enough. Uncultured.
No.
I don't believe you. Come on.
No, I watch anime like I watch Attack of the Titans.
That's
and stuff,
straight
but
cap, my brother. This is it, and you can see the resemblance, right? Here's the Ahigo face.
Go on.
It's like a hentai reference.
Okay.
But you see the resemblance, right?
Can you put them side by side?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
I mean, that's quite a cute drawing.
Right, but that's like a woman like orgasming is what that is.
Well,
Or like
that's not
lustful.
what I
It's like a lustful kind of sexual gratification.
Ethan, you're
phase.
really clutching at straws.
Am
I'm
I?
literally like, I've got my eyes open, I'm doing the peace sign, and you're trying to dissect it and say this, honestly.
Right. It just seems to me that even as a trans person, you shouldn't be exposing kids to that. It seems like you're shoving gender ideology down kids' throats by selling them a lunchbox with a trans woman on it. You don't see my point at all? You don't get it?
No, I don't. You know, I would see your point completely. If, for instance, it had messaging on there, like some political, because I don't think kids should be exposed to politics either. Political or gender ideology message. If that was on there, that'd be different. If it was a sexually suggestive image, but this is literally an innocent cartoon. I've got my eyes open. I'm doing the peace sign. You could not get innocent. What do I need to do, Ethan, like to please people? Do I have to like close my eyes?
Well, I personally don't necessarily have a problem. What is your fascination with the eye wideness? I haven't said anything about that.
About what? Sorry.
You said, "What do I have to close my eyes?" I didn't know what that meant. You kept mentioning about like the eye wideness of how wide it is. I don't know why you keep bringing that up.
No, I'm just saying that. Look, in the picture, my eyes. It's not even me, by the way. It's a cartoon, but the eyes are very wide open,
Right.
like glistening. I'm just saying, like, what's wrong with having my eyes open? Like, we're human beings. We have to have our eyes open. Like, would it be better if I close my eyes? Would it be better if I close my eyes?
I don't know. I don't know what that means, Ollie. Here's a reference to popular culture with the ahigo face. It's, like kind of an e-girl thing. You're probably aware of that.
Well, I'm not an e-girl, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but you're on the internet, and it's from anime, which you seem to be. Okay, but let's move on.
I do know anime and stuff. I don't know anything to do with that pose. Literally, I've got my mouth open like this. Peace.
Ethan, move on from the ahigo, man. He's still talking about the ahigo face.
Do it.
Thanks.
Yes, girl. So but you identify as a male now. You're not trans. We're over that.
No, I'm basically I got to a point where I was going to probably die from the surgery I was doing. And, I was really mentally struggling. Had a lot of mental health struggles based on a variety of issues, which I talk about in my book, from when I was being bullied very severely as a kid. I was always told I was like ugly, or I looked like a monster, or, I was more feminine, or I had man boobs. So I just used to have all those things, and it left me with traumas. So it kind of messed up my head. And as an adult, I didn't deal with that in the way that I should have. I should have had therapy. I should have spoke to someone. Instead, it was almost like self-harming. So all this crazy surgery was me kind of lashing out at the bullies, and it was very, very destructive for me and for other people. So I'm glad to be over that.
Do you think that people who are bullied are at a higher chance of becoming trans?
Yes, definitely. So I talk about this in my book. There's a lot of studies. There was a study in Finland by the top transgender clinic that was basically transitioning a lot of kids, and they said around 45% of the kids had experienced severe bullying. So that led to their gender dysphoria identity. But there's also the other side.
Your theory is that the bullying leads to the dysphoria, not the dysphoria leading to the bullying, which would be more logical.
I was just about to say as well, but there is also the flip side of that, where the kids are being bullied because of their identity, because maybe a boy is more feminine or a girl is more like a tomboy. So they're also being bullied for that. But in certain studies, the one in Finland at Tampere University, they found that there was a significant correlation between a kid being bullied and then the onset of their gender dysphoria coming afterwards rather than before. But, of course, it works both ways.
The type of bullying that Ollie London received was positive. Okay? I'll say it. People were like yelling at you, and they didn't bully you because you were trans. They bullied you because you're out of your fucking mind. Like, no one is out there being like, wow, Ollie London's trans. I mean, I'm sure there were some transphobic people that actually were bullying him. But, those people are now his allies, right? Most people, like myself, were looking at that and going, you're fucking out of your mind. Like, you're not Jimin. You're not him. You are not him. Okay? You can't be fucking Korean like that. It doesn't work that way, you dumbass.
Heteronormality. I think That's so. So it seems to be saying the opposite, actually, of what you've claimed it said. Do you see what I'm referring to? Heteronormality.
Yeah, no, I see that. I
Yeah,
see that
okay.
article. That
Look who's
you know,
back, by the
if
way.
you actually read the full study, which
That's
I've read
the
the full study,
conclusion.
you can find it on the National Institute of Health.
Oh no, this is the
Basically,
study. Yeah, this
let me
is.
have a look.
Yeah, no, this is the study. It's the
Yeah,
.gov.
Finland. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. And then this is the author's conclusion right there. I mean, that's pretty much that. This is the one you're talking about. Do you disagree?
Yes, but it's look. The study's also saying it's associated with being bullied and being the perpetrator. So it's basically saying that
Yes,
either
but but the message. This is the last sentence. So let's read this together carefully.
Mhm.
It suggests that bullying during adolescence may serve as a mechanism of maintaining heteronormality. So, do we understand what that says?
No, I get what it's saying. It's basically saying that some of these kids that are being bullied will maintain their original identity because of the bullying. Correct. But the study also, if you read the full study, the study also speaks, there's a high correlation between, there's two different findings in the study. There's a finding that around 45% of the kids are bullied and that causes the gender dysphoria. And there's also a part of the study which also says, like the conclusion is finding that some of these kids are bullied because of their gender dysphoria and it makes it worse. So there's
it
two
seems
different
like
findings.
if two outcomes are possible, then it doesn't seem that interesting. I wonder why you bring it up.
Well, no, read the full study. It also talks about the correlation between autism.
I mean, this is the author. They wrote the conclusion right here. This is their.
That's a small summary on Yahoo
that's
News.
the
If you
author.
read,
That's the author. That's their conclusion.
correct.
Right.
But if you read in the
Who
National
better
Institute
to draw
of
a
Health,
conclusion than the author of the study?
no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
Ollie London, duh. Bet the author is gay or something. Fuck it.
People from becoming. According to this, bullying prevents more kids from transitioning. Do you believe that we need more bullying?
No, I'm an advocate against bullying. I think whoever gets bullied, it's so wrong. I've been bullied myself, and I'm an advocate.
But if
for trying to
bullying
stop
results
that.
in less transitioning, then that, according to what you're saying, is the best outcome for these kids.
No, I don't agree at all. No kid, even if a kid is feminine or a girl is a tomboy, they should not get bullied. No one should get bullied. They should be provided with support. But if somebody wants to transition,
notice how Ollie's not talking about transitioning. He's saying, "Oh, you're just tomboys."
All these kids are going through so many issues during that time. They are not in the right frame of mind to make an informed consent decision.
If a child is suicidal, do you believe?
I personally think it's pretty funny that he got that fucking nose job and it's so busted that one of his nostrils literally doesn't move in the same way that the other one does. And he's over here talking about how, like, no one should get any kind of gender affirmation care. Like, bro, you fix your own shit, okay? What the fuck is this?
Told them your kids are going to commit suicide if you don't transition them. But what they said afterwards is they actually felt worse 6 months down the line after their transition because they've got hormones in their body, they've got puberty blockers, and they even had double mastectomy.
That the vast majority of people that transition don't regret it. I think it's like 95%, 99%. Are you aware of that stat?
You don't hear the cases of the detransitions.
Are you aware, Ollie, that 99%?
No, that's not true. We only hear the detransitioners in comparison.
I don't support that statistic. I think it's wrong because these clinics.
From what authority do you disprove that statistic?
Well, look, these clinics make these studies. They don't even do follow-up studies. There's an example of a.
Do you not trust studies because you just told me to read one?
Look, what I'm saying is the gender clinics make billions of dollars every year. Their studies are skewed and biased.
In a review of 27 studies involving almost 8,000 teens and adults who had transgender surgeries, mostly in Europe, US, and Canada, 1% on average expressed regret. For some, regret was temporary, but a small number went on to detransition. But that's 1%. That seems like a very small amount to be singularly focused on. And this is 27 studies, so this is a massive kind of conclusion, right? A scientific conclusion, a consensus, if you would.
Yes, but what I'm saying is there's a clinic, for instance, Tavistock Clinic, which was the main clinic in the UK. they were actually exposed. They were doing studies as well. They
Is
weren't
that what we were
bothering
talking
to
about in the
check with the
beginning?
detransitioners. They didn't bother to check with the detransition. They didn't check how the hormones
Oh,
were
I know
affecting
what
them
you're
over a year.
talking about. That English one for
Yeah.
yeah. So that one, if I recall, I looked into that. Um, I believe it was they. People say it was shut down. It was actually, wasn't it?
It's being
They
shut down.
right,
It's
but
still open. Mhm.
they're actually making a bigger one so they can serve more needs. I actually, so it's not really being shut down actually.
That
Say
one
the name
is
again.
it's still
What is it?
it's called Tavistock.
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 Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that one's actually being shut down this year because basically the National Health Service, which is basically looks after all the hospitals in the UK for the government, they actually said that there were a lot of ethical violations and stuff, and they also changed their policy.
It's funny to think that like Turf Island has any positive say on this matter. Or like shutting down hospitals implies anything but like conservative austerity measures in place for the UK. Okay, one, they're horrifically transphobic over there. Sorry, it's just the truth. And two, they're fucking shutting down hospital care nonstop because of fucking Tory austerity.
27 studies. Then why did you tell me to read this one, Ollie? You use studies when it's convenient for you, but you don't when it goes against your thesis. I don't understand your consistency with studies. Do we like them or no?
What I'm trying to say, Ethan, is the gender clinics are very, very powerful.
Do we?
They
No.
control
Ollie,
a lot
do
of
we
studies.
like studies or not? All studies or no
I like
studies?
studies.
Oh, we do.
You know, I like studies.
You do
but
like
you have
studies.
but you have to always look at bias. You know, the clinic in Finland was a transgender clinic that made the study. So they had different findings to many of the clinics in America that are saying there's a low detransition rate. But there are thousands of detransitioners out there. They're just not sharing their stories because of fear of being attacked. And, they get abuse every single day from trans activists. So there's thousands of kids out there there's 50,000 detransitioners on a Reddit subreddit forum speaking about detransitioning, but they're scared to come out and talk about it because they're going to get attacked. So there's a lot of people hiding.
You seem to be in denial, Ollie, that the vast, vast majority of these people, let's say there's a bias. Let's say instead of 1%, it's 10% regret it. And that's a huge deviation. So I'm giving you a lot of doubt here. If 10% only regret it, do you think that on whole of the 90% who don't regret it and who had what they consider life-changing health care, why would you seek to deny them life-changing health care? When they say this saved my life.
Well, Ethan, children can't get tattoos. Children can't buy cigarettes or buy alcohol. So how on earth can they consent to doing something they don't even understand about? We have to look at many of these kids. They don't understand. They don't think about the future. Like if a kid changes their body, they have gender reassignment surgery or take hormones, they might not be able to have a baby when they're older. They don't think about those things because they're kids. So the issue is just we shouldn't be doing this to kids. It should happen, as an adult, they can make informed consent. But even with some of the parents agreeing
Ollie,
to it,
do you know how many kids between the age of
the counter to this
17 went through irreversible surgery in the United States?
That's one counter,
I know
but the real counter
rise
is
every year. Now it will be several thousand.
So the number of patients of children between 6 and 17 who went through irreversible surgery in the United States. What was the years on that one?
It's 3 years, 2019 through 2021.
So this is the most comprehensive data we have, and this comes straight from the government stats. It was 250 per year. Does that seem significant to you?
That's completely incorrect because there's a clinic in Oregon. It's in the thousands now. There's a clinic in Oregon that's done at least
thousands.
300.
Is that significant? 1,000? I mean, we have 50 million children in the United States. Do you think 1,000 is statistically significant?
There's thousands, and this study probably only takes into account.
This is one counter. The other counter is not only is it statistically insignificant and you're making a fucking mountain out of a molehill, the other counter always is, okay, what if you have a child, okay, who is in a situation where puberty blockers are medically necessary? And then he'll say, no, that's not the case. That's like trans people, blah, blah, blah. And you go, okay, again, contraceptives and certain kinds of certain kinds of hormone blockers are absolutely medically necessary for young girls, for example, that have issues related to their fucking genitals and shit. You know what I mean? It's still medically necessary. Do you think that they should stop birth control? In many instances could literally be life-saving. It's not even just about like, you know, kids are having sex and we need to make sure that you're curbing back on teenage pregnancy. It is an absolute medical necessity for a lot of people, a lot of girls especially. Do you think that that is appropriate, or do you want to stop that? And if he says, yes, that is appropriate, that should happen, then you go, okay, well then why the fuck do you have a say on other medically necessary circumstances? Do you think you should set the boundaries on what is considered medically necessary and what's not medically necessary? Or should we leave that standard up to the medical professionals, the healthcare professionals that have the welfare of the entire public in mind and aren't some fucking psychotic people who thought they were Korean 3 months ago?
On the right, that they're turning our kids gay. That turned out not to be true. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely
So hold on to that. So now today, we see the same graph going up of trans kids getting surgery or gender-affirming care or whatever. So why is it that you today can draw a conclusion that was the same conclusion in the 50s that you disagree with, that trans kids are being influenced societal to become trans? It seems to be a glaring contradiction in logic.
It's not just...
Wait, Ollie London isn't Korean? No, I know he's very convincing, but he's actually, I mean, his last name betrays him. He's Londonian. Yeah.
Ethan, there's now over 60 pediatric gender clinics that have opened within the last 15 years across the US. They weren't there before, so they are profiting from this. They're opening clinics because they know they can profit.
Yeah.
But when they push,
Yeah. It's really fucked up that, like, there is psychiatric help for, like, or some kind of help for example, people with autism. The number of kids with autism is skyrocketed. I wonder why that's happening. Maybe it's because we have better detection measurements, and also on top of that, we have a better understanding of how to, like, allow people on the autism spectrum disorder to, like, coexist in a normal way with the rest of society.
Why is
no? It can't be that. It must mean something
result
different.
Of it becoming more acceptable in society. It's the same curve, right? Same curve.
It's a huge curve, and it's really in the last 5 years since TikTok came about. We're seeing so many. There's about 2.2 billion.
What does it matter how they become aware of it? I'm telling you, it's the same curve.
What I'm trying to tell you is that there are influences now that didn't exist 10 years ago that are pushing kids. So, for instance, TikTok, there's about 2.2.
So TikTok is turning.
It's like, Ollie, you thought you were trans. Like, the fuck do you mean, dumbass? Like, you did it before movies. TikTok.
It was hippie movements. That wasn't accessible to the generation before them. I don't see the difference.
What I'm saying is that kids are being exposed to influences that they didn't have before.
Same in the 50s.
Kids are being on. Sorry?
The same in the 50s. The kids who were coming out as gay were also exposed to things that weren't accessible to generations before them.
Well, I don't agree with that. They didn't have phones back then. Kids are now being pushed trends, and the AI algorithm recognizes a kid's vulnerabilities, and they push videos.
Music, popular music.
Music.
Pop music pop music was something that was, rock and roll was something that was new back then. So
no, correct. And you could also argue that in the 80s, more people came out because music like George Michael was, and songs about freedom and stuff.
So then why are you
concluding
concluding that TikTok is making people trans? I don't understand the logic. You just contradicted yourself.
No. What I'm saying is, in the last 5 years, there is an increase in gender clinics opening because they are exploiting these children that are being pushed trends. There's a lot of lobby groups, Ethan. The Human Rights Campaign is a massive lobby group. They're going around.
Ollie, you were trans before TikTok.
I've struggled with gender dysphoria for all of my life.
Before TikTok.
Correct, Yes, but my identity struggles came about because
Yeah.
I was using social media too much, and
But
I
Ollie,
started
you
to
were
see.
born in 1990. You're not that much younger than me. When I grew up, there was no social media. I don't believe you probably had social media until you were in your 20s, well into your 20s.
Yeah, correct. And the reason I struggled with my identity was because of bullying in childhood. But then I only transitioned as an
But
adult
bullying in
because
childhood,
firstly it was.
we established from the report that you told me to read that bullying in childhood results in less people transitioning.
Ethan's like, your bullying didn't take, Ollie. You still went trans, brother.
Sorry, say it again.
The study you sent me
Yeah.
about bullying, the conclusion was that bullying results in less people transitioning.
Ollie, it
So you
didn't take.
says
What
it's a
happened?
result of social media. Well, you didn't have social media. Then you says it
Ethan,
was a
I'm
result
one
of bullying.
person.
But this study you told me to read says bullying reduces the amount of people who transition. So how is it that you were trans before, outside of all of these influences that are turning people trans?
Well, firstly, I'm an individual, so I'm one person. So my experience is not reflective of every single person that becomes trans out there. But the thing is, I became trans as an adult because I really struggled with my identity throughout my whole life. And yes, I did get bullying. Every case is different as well. Some people are bullied because of their gender identity, some people are not. So every single case is different. But the reason I became trans was, you follow my journey, the Korean stuff. That was me trying to find myself and trying to, fit in because I hated the way I
Ollie,
looked.
if
And
your
then,
journey is a personal one, which I totally understand, then what gives you the right to project your personal experience onto others?
well, I speak to detransitioners every day. I speak to parents. I speak to women,
So
and
don't
they
you
are very.
that assumes a bias, Ollie. You're talking all day to detransitioners. We've also established, because we, I think, like studies, or I don't know if we decided, I think you said you like studies, because 27 of them made a consensus that 99% of people that transition don't regret it. So if you spend all day talking to the 1% that do regret it, don't you believe that underlies a bias?
Well, no, I don't believe it because I
Really?
talk to all sorts of people. I talk to parents that have trans kids, and they're trying to navigate through that. And the general consensus with everyone I speak to, because no, I don't. I'm not right wing or left wing. I'm just very much in the center. I'm just trying to help people using my platform to try and
Yeah, you're
help
not right wing
people.
or left wing. You're just insane
This is we shouldn't be doing this to kids, and there
and a
generally
bad
is a
person.
concerted push over the last 5 years to medically transition children. If kids want to experiment, if a girl wants to be a tomboy, nobody has a problem with that. If they want to become trans as an adult, that's on them. But the issue that I talk about every day, I talk with parents, I talk with all these detransitions, is when this happens to kids. That's the issue I'm speaking about.
Right, but
It's
that's so
not about
rare.
people being
Let me
trans.
ask you another question, just to pivot a little bit.
Mhm.
I'm one of the people that would say Ollie London is
Yeah, this is what I
willing
was
to
talking
do
about.
anything for attention. You have probably some kind of, I don't want to diagnose you, I'm not a psychiatrist, but there is some craving for attention, clearly, right? Good or bad. I mean, you said about like Korean, you said your pronouns were Korean, you said you were going to get your penis size reduced so that you could look more, you could be a more authentic Korean. I mean, these are not serious things. You seem to be a provocateur. Is it possible that you are participating in this right-wing grift because, one, it's making you a lot of money, and two, it's getting you a lot of attention? Is that possible, that you actually don't care and that your beliefs are empty? Is that
No,
possible?
absolutely not. So when I struggled with my identity for years, I generally was struggling and I was lashing out at bullies. And the more I would get bullied online by YouTubers and people on TikTok, the more I would act crazy because I was trying to feel validated and loved. And it was very
Well,
unhealthy,
the
Ethan. I'm not
conservative
hiding that.
movement has offered you quite an open hand. They're very glad to be using you as a mouthpiece against trans people. So it must feel good to be being accepted from somebody, even if it is at the detriment of many people who are at risk, trans people. It must feel nice
No,
to have people supporting you.
No, it's nothing to do with that at all. I could have easily continued doing K-pop. I could have focused on TikTok, which, I used to really enjoy doing TikTok. I'm not the best singer. I like to make fun, entertaining videos. I could have stuck with that in actual fact, when I detransitioned, I lost so many brand deals. I lost, I lost all my invites to New York Fashion Week. I was front row every
Yeah, but
season.
now you're
I
on
lost all
Tucker
my
Carlson.
No,
I mean,
he
that's the biggest
wasn't.
show
When
in the
was
world.
he?
Or it
What?
was. Rest in
No.
peace to the GOAT.
That never happened.
Yeah, he was the original GOAT. But no, it's nothing to do with that.
So you say it's not possible that you are just doing this for attention. If we go back, here's a recording of you saying that you're using the BLM movement for attention and for cameos. Here, listen.
Millions. So it's basically every time I do a music video, it's like, if it's 1 million, it's £1,000. So, if I just keep releasing music videos, that's like enough. And then also because I've been a lot on Twitter, there's been so many people talking about me on Twitter because I'm supporting the Black Lives Matter and protests and stuff. So I had 200,000 views on the video. So because of that as well, I'm getting a lot of requests. So it's just,
Is he getting fucked right here? What is this noise?
In the news, on TV and stuff, because the more exposure I have, if I'm trending on Twitter or whatever on TV, then the more cameos I get. So yeah,
So here you say you're supporting BLM to stay relevant and because it gets you more cameos.
What the fuck is that? What is that? What is that?
Since you went right wing.
Well, firstly, that audio was from a number of years ago. It was.
How did they record this? He's like panting.
That was completely uncredible. And just basically desperate for attention.
It's your voice, correct?
It's my voice, but it was edited deceptively to try to make.
Oh my God! Is it because his nose is fucked up? He can't fucking breathe normally.
So I'm not doing any of this. What I'm doing now is to try and help people. Previously, Ethan, I'll admit it. Previously, I had some very unhealthy
tell me it's
behavior.
deceptive. I'm open to hearing you out. How is it deceptive?
I'm explaining. So previously I had unhealthy behavior where I was generally like thinking, oh, how many likes can I get? How many views can I get? Because I was in a really crazy mental health place, and the more surgery I would get, I'd feel worse about myself. So
people saying he was walking are telling on themselves. I'm sorry. Normal walking does not lead you to breathe that way. Okay, while you're talking,
Ethan,
are you joking?
You're on the show.
No, if I wanted to get attention and stuff, I would stick to doing TikToks. I would stick to doing my K-pop music videos.
You're getting a lot more attention right now. I mean, you're getting a lot of attention right now. In fact, you wrote a whole damn book about it, Gender Madness.
Well, what I'm doing now is because I've actually come to a realization that I have had some very unhealthy behaviors in the past, and I'm trying to remedy that. Because I can't sleep at night when I think, have I done something bad? Have I been a bad influence? So I'm actually trying to remedy that and devote my time to
I hate to tell you,
activism.
if that's what you're concerned about, you're going to feel really bad when your next phase comes around and you realize that you were the mouthpiece for really hateful people.
Ethan, it's not a phase, and I'm not a mouthpiece for anyone. I'm literally just trying to speak up about issues that I have finally woken up to see what's going on in the world.
It seems to me, Ollie, that if we look at all of your different iterations of your personality, the one consistent thing is a need for attention.
Well, you could say that about Trisha Paytas, who was your best friend and you used to do a podcast.
Oh, I do say that. I mean, yeah, I would say that about Trisha Paytas. Sure.
Yeah, what?
Are you like
Trisha Paytas? She had different identities, but she had a wake-up call, and then she realized that she could be an influence to others, and she's really a positive girl. She's doing amazing things at the moment, and I had a wake-up call.
Trisha was a chicken nugget, I believe. Do you empathize with that, Ollie, as a former trans person?
Ethan, I'm vegetarian, so I wouldn't empathize with her being
So you're saying you're nugget. Like yeah, and congratulations on that. We support that. Ollie, do you believe you're like Trisha Paytas?
No, not at all. I'm not comparing myself to her. I'm just saying that she had a lot of identity struggles. She had some unhealthy behaviors. I had some unhealthy behaviors. I struggled, but I'm remedying that now. I'm working hard every day to try and be a better person, to try and help people. And that's what I'm focused on. So people can call me what they want. I'm not a mouthpiece for anyone. I'm literally trying to help.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's pivot. This came about when you found God, right? And you can fill in the blanks here. You were confused. You were a transgender woman. You were selling kids' lunch boxes depicting a trans woman on it. That's pretty low by your own definition. And then you were walking around and you found God. You entered a church and then you realized, hey, this is a cool vibe, maybe.
Well, no, actually, before that, I started to go to therapy. So basically, I lost a lot of my friends. People thought I was really crazy. And I was very mentally unwell with all of these different crazy identities that I struggled with. So I actually started therapy first, and I started going to sessions twice a week. And then they actually told me, you need to speak about this. You need to find a community that's accepting, non-judgmental, and kind.
So hold on. Your therapist told you that you're not trans?
No, my therapist didn't tell me I wasn't trans, but they said if I'm having issues and struggling with who I am, perhaps I should find a community that's very
Okay.
welcoming and might make me feel like I can belong.
Okay.
Take some time off social media.
Okay.
So they didn't tell me not to be trans. It's nothing to do with that.
So
They
you
literally told me to try and find myself.
you took a break off social media, and then you took
Well, no,
your time to find God and find your new self.
I stopped. I stopped spending hours and hours,
These weenies always have the same
which
story.
was messing up my mind, and I actually left my
So
phone.
it's so stupid. It's so cliche. It's so boring. Like, you're creative enough to like come up with the most unhinged thing to do to your own fucking body. You can't come up with a better a better backstory. Like, it's always got to be at the top of the hour. I saw a 3-minute ad break, and all of a sudden I realized like I'm not subscribed. I will be seeing this 3-minute ad break, and also I'm not Korean. I'm a white man. It's like fucked up. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. Don't be like Ollie London. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe and avoid the fucking ads.
So you went from a month.
Speed Racer, thank you for the 5, get the subs. So hey Bozo, thank you for the 5, get the subs. Allowing 10 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. You too can avoid it if you get gifted a sub. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
When you said get off, take your time and talk and figure out who you are, that all happened within a month.
No, actually, since I originally transitioned, I felt great for a couple of months, and then I really started to question it. I started to think, okay, I can even do more surgery to make myself physically become a transgender woman, or I can take a step back. So I was having a lot of thoughts of regret, but it was too late at that point. I'd already done facial feminization. I'd already changed myself. I was very confused. So I'd been having those thoughts for a number of months. And then within a month from that particular picture being taken, I actually detransitioned.
So tell me about finding God. Tell me about when you were in the church and you had like an awakening.
Well, I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of loved ones because they thought my behavior was very unhealthy. And, it was a now or never moment. I could have continued down a very destructive path, destructive for myself and people around me, and destructive for, people that see me online. I think I was, not a good role model, and I deeply regret that. So,
were you trying to be a role model? I find that interesting.
No, well, at the time in my delusion, I thought I was a role model for people that liked K-pop and wanted to be a K-pop star. So then I started going to church to try and take some time out to think about my life and think, what is the next step for me? And then, after spending some time going to church sessions and sermons, it made me realize, just try to find acceptance with who I am and stop doing all this craziness and try to get back to the real me. And that's the most important thing.
I've heard you mention the real you being a British man. But if you talk to other people, I think they might say the real them. And as I think you would agree, people are born gay. They don't choose to be gay. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So then why?
And I agree, and I believe that some people generally feel trans since they're born. I do believe that.
So God made them that way, right? So God would have made them that way.
I just believe that some people are born as trans, but my issue is kids being indoctrinated to transition when they didn't think about that before. So however you're born, that's the way you feel, then that's okay. But I don't believe in people that wouldn't think about these things being indoctrinated to change.
If you were British, you would do anything to escape it too. That's pretty funny. I mean, look, I'll say something positive. Ollie London is awesome because normally there's a lot of fucking freak-like individuals out there that you would want to be making fun of, right? Openly. But you kind of can't because, you don't really know their background. You don't know their backstory. What if they've undergone some hardship or something like that? Whereas with Ollie London, he's an open book. So it's like open season, really. Like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. He's just such a fucking cartoonishly monstrous individual that, like, you don't really ever get an opportunity to just, like, unwind and unload on a motherfucker because they're so demonstrably dedicated to being as harmful as possible to others. It's great.
Up in your interviews, God makes people trans. I find that to be.
I never said God made people trans. I never said God didn't make people trans.
Does God make people gay? Does God make people gay?
I'm just saying that people are born in different ways. And
Because you said you were born gay, and so
I was born. I wasn't born. I was born a man, and then as a teenager, I became gay. So it didn't happen from birth, but I struggled with my. I was very feminine. I struggled with my identity as a kid.
Was that your choice or God's choice?
You know, there's a lot of influences that influence people in life. You know,
God is all powerful, right?
No, perhaps I wouldn't have turned out the way I did if I wasn't bullied, or perhaps
is God all powerful?
Yeah, God is very powerful. Yes, absolutely.
All powerful.
But
is God all powerful?
God is all powerful, but there are.
So then He made you gay, and trans people